This photograph shows a man in uniform, standing alone at the edge of a frozen field. The image is old, scratched, and slightly tilted, as if the person who took it was shaking. His posture is rigid, disciplined, trained. His face, however, betrays something else. His eyes are not focused on the horizon, nor on the camera. They are turned inward, as if watching a memory replay itself behind his eyes. This is how the war remembers him. Before the uniform, before the rifle, before the endless marching and the sound of artillery rolling through the ground like distant thunder, he was simply a man who knew how to listen. He noticed the small things, the way silence changed just before snow fell, the way a person's voice could reveal more in what it avoided than in what it said. He had not planned to become a soldier. No one ever truly plans to become one. War doesn't ask for permission. It arrives, and people are rearranged around it. The first images of his service are orderly, rows of men standing shoulder to shoulder. Their faces are young, serious, and already tired. The uniform fits him well, as if discipline had always been waiting for him. In training photographs, he looks calm, focused. He follows commands precisely, not because he loves authority, but because structure quiets the noise in his thoughts. In war, clarity is rare, and he learns quickly that obedience can be a form of relief. Then there are the photographs that are never taken. The nights spent in trenches where the cold settles into your bones and refuses to leave. The long hours of waiting, broken only by the sudden violence of sound and motion. He becomes intimately familiar with fear, not as panic, but as a constant companion. Fear sharpens him, it keeps him alive, but it also changes the way he sees the world. Colors become duller, faces become harder to read. Time stretches and contracts unpredictably. It is during one of these long periods of waiting that he meets her. There is no dramatic moment, no music swells, no sudden clarity. Just an ordinary exchange in an extraordinary place. She is not a soldier. She works where the wounded are brought, where the war reveals its true cost without censorship. In photographs, she stands slightly apart from others, her posture composed, her expression controlled. But her eyes are different. They carry a quiet defiance, a refusal to let the war consume everything it touches. Their conversations are brief at first, practical, neutral. They speak about nothing important because everything important feels too fragile to name. He notices how she listens without interrupting. She notices how he chooses his words carefully, as if every sentence must pass an internal inspection before being released. Over time, something subtle forms between them. It isn't passion, not yet. It isn't even hope, it's understanding. In the photographs from this period, he looks less rigid, the lines in his face soften slightly. There is still tension, still discipline, but now there is also restraint, as if he is holding onto something unseen, something he is afraid to lose. She, in turn, begins to smile in small, almost imperceptible ways. The war doesn't stop for them, but for brief moments, it loosens its grip. Psychologically, the conflict inside him grows heavier. He is trained to observe, to analyze, to assess threats. But now his mind begins to fracture under the weight of contradictions. He is capable of violence, and yet he feels deeply protective. He is calm under fire, and yet terrified of the quiet moments where memories surface uninvited. At night, when sleep comes, it brings images he cannot control. Faces without names, orders followed too precisely, decisions made too quickly. She becomes his anchor, not by offering comfort, but by offering presence. She doesn't ask him to explain what he cannot explain. She doesn't demand promises for a future that might not exist. Their romance exists in glances, in shared silences, in letters written carefully and folded to many times. Love, in this context, is not grand, it is careful, almost cautious. As if both of them understand that to love openly in wartime is to give the war another weapon. As the conflict intensifies, the photographs become darker, more distant. He is captured standing alone more often, framed against empty landscapes, smoke, and ruined buildings. The war has begun to hollow him out. His sense of self fractures between the man he was, the soldier he has become, and the man she sees when the uniform comes off. Psychologically, this division becomes exhausting. He feels himself splitting into roles that cannot coexist peacefully. There is a photograph taken shortly before everything changes. He stands beside her, but there is space between them. Not a physical distance, but an emotional restraint. Both of them are aware that something is coming. Orders are shifting. Units are being reassigned. The war, indifferent to human attachments, is rearranging lives once again. When he leaves, there is no farewell scene worthy of cinema. Just a brief touch of hands, a look held slightly too long. In the photograph, their shadows overlap on the ground, even though their bodies do not. Combat strips him further. He becomes efficient, silent, emotionally contained. From the outside, he is exemplary. Inside, however, his thoughts begin to loop. He replays moments with her during times of extreme stress, not as an escape, but as proof that he was once more than what the war is turning him into. Love becomes memory. Memory becomes a tool for survival. Psychologically, the war never truly ends for him. Even after the fighting stops, after the uniforms are folded away and the medals are awarded, the structure that once held his mind together collapses. Civilian life feels unstructured, chaotic. Silence becomes threatening. He misses the clarity of orders, even as he resents what they cost him. The final photographs show him older, still alone, still composed. The uniform is gone, but the posture remains. There is no record of whether they ever met again. No photograph captures their reunion or their final separation. History doesn't care enough to document what happens to love after a war has ended. What remains is a psychological residue, the kind that settles into a person permanently. He carries the war inside him, but he also carries her. Not as a fantasy, but as a reminder that even in the most controlled, violent, and dehumanizing systems, the human mind can still attach itself to something gentle. The story doesn't end with resolution, it ends with endurance. In the last image, he is standing near a field much like the one in the first photograph. The landscape is quiet, peaceful even, but his eyes tell a different story. They reflect a life lived between discipline and desire, violence and tenderness, duty and love. The war shaped him, the war damaged him, but it did not erase the part of him that learned how to love carefully, quietly, in the middle of chaos. And that, perhaps, is the most psychological truth of all, that even in war, the most dangerous battles are not fought with weapons, but within the mind, and the most fragile victories are won by a love that survives without ever needing to be seen. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please know that help is available and you are not alone. There are resources and support systems that can guide you through difficult times. Reaching out is a sign of strength. Thanks for watching.